Yep.
Okay. And you are live on YouTube right now.
Yeah, we're just waiting on Pete.
And I will be shutting my mic off now too, but I can still hear you.
You haven't heard anything from Pete, I take it, right, Corinne? And David's out there, right?
He's coming in.
Yes.
Here he is. We can see you, David, now.
Good, good.
No,
Okay.
I have not.
We can give him a couple minutes yet. Barb, is that okay?
Sure, it's fine. Whenever you want to get started, we're ready. So
Yeah.
Well, David, did you follow Bob Jorsted there as superintendent in Stewartville?
No, I did not.
There's one.
There was
between you?
another gentleman before me, right before me. I was Dr. Jorsted's principal though, high school principal,
Okay. Yeah,
for 7 years.
he hired
Yeah.
me when I started at Adams, when he was at Adams.
Oh, okay,
He gave
okay.
me my first teaching job.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I was here at Stewartville as high school principal for 7 years, and I went to Farmington for 7 years, and I was back to Stewartville as superintendent for 17 years.
Okay.
So, so we've had there was quite a, I think there was 65 years that we only had 4 superintendents here. So we've had, there's been some longevity here for a long time. Dr. Jorsted, I think, is here for 19 years.
Yeah, I know he was there a long time.
Yeah, yeah, he was there for a long time.
Well, Barb, we want to call the meeting to order here. So I think you want to, do we have a motion to approve the agenda? And again, tonight we're gonna.
Pledge first.
Huh?
Pledge first.
Yeah, we can say pledge allegiance. All rise. If you have a flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thank you all for coming tonight. I know we got a lot going on tonight and the next couple nights, so the next week especially. So do we have a motion to approve the agenda? We're
So
gonna do
move.
a roll call vote. So a motion made by Gene,
Second.
second by Richard. Okay, all in favor. Again, I'll do roll call vote. Mark?
Aye.
Mimi?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Pete?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
And Richard?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, thank you. So Barb, you want to get started?
yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's great to see everybody again. We have quite a bit to cover tonight, but ultimately it's going to fall into 3 big areas. The first area we're going to cover are the logistics for the round 1 superintendent interviews. Those will occur next Monday and Tuesday. So we're going to discuss round 1 and finalize some of those loose ends that we need to before Monday arrives. We're then going to also discuss round 2, which is scheduled to occur next Thursday, the 15th. So we'll have some discussions around the questions and the schedule and stakeholder involvement in round 2. And then we'll close out the meeting tonight with the candidate presentations. I know you've all had a chance to get into the database and review the applications for the Houston Superintendency. So Dave and I will present our recommendations to the board, and then the board will, of course, select those that you feel are best aligned with your hiring criteria that you would like to interview next Monday and Tuesday. So those are the three big areas. Before we get started, does anyone have questions about where we're at in the process or anything that you're wondering about? I'll give you just a second. All right, not seeing any hands up. Why don't we just dive right in to the round one logistics. This is packet one in the first of two emails that you received from the district. So if you pull out your packet one, the first thing is I'd like to just confirm with you if the round one questions, it says round one questions final, are okay with you. These are the questions that you worked with Dave on last week, and he has finalized these, and you're looking at 16 questions. Now I know it says 19, and that's because the first three questions are always the candidate's name, the date of the interview, and your name as a board member. There's an electronic form that these questions will be in for you to use in round one. And so we'll talk more about that later, but it's called the EMD form. So for every question that is listed here, you as individual board members will mark whether the candidate's answer exceeded your expectation, which would be E, met your expectation, M, or if they did not meet your expectation in terms of what you were hoping they would say in response to that question. So as you select your choices, E, M, or D, for each of these questions, we'll have you then, after the interview, log into the form and fill out your results. So that's why it's in this format, first of all, that shows three additional questions. In the electronic format, those first three questions are taken up by some of the logistical information. I also took the liberty of inserting school board member names by each question. I just listed them in order of how you're listed on the website, starting with the officers. I hope that's okay, but if for any reason you as board members don't like the question you've been assigned, we can certainly look at swapping those around. But I just put you in here so everyone has a chance to interact with the candidates during the interviews.
Hey, Barb.
Yes.
Say, where would that packet is that in an email?
That was in an email that came from Anne. I had sent her that information yesterday morning. I can look specifically. Does anyone have it handy so you know when the email came in?
I was gonna ask the same question. I don't think we got an email.
I got it.
You got it? All right, I'll look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of searching again because I've been looking at the emails. I didn't see it either, but
Who is
Yeah, I'm gonna have to have it too. I'm going back through my emails right now and I'm not finding it. So if I could have the exact time.
Who is it that had the packet?
I got it here. I can look and
Okay.
see.
Yeah, I sent it to Anne and copied you, Tom, and asked her to forward
Yeah.
it to the board. So my apologies. There's two emails that were sent out either yesterday or the day before, so you could look at these materials before tonight, and I'm really sorry about that. So if you could forward all of those, Tom. To the
I got an
full-
email for the Revelous board to log in to look at the candidates.
Yep, that would have been the day
I
after the
got that
deadline.
one, but I did not. I have not. I don't see another one.
Hang on.
Okay.
And I don't know, I did send that to Corinne, you know? Barb,
I'm sorry?
did that go to Corinne?
It went to Anne and copied you.
Okay. I've got to turn my other computer on. Hang on. Up so I wouldn't be disturbed.
Okay, it was on Wednesday
Yeah.
at 10:40 a.m.
Yeah.
It included two packets, packet one and packet two.
But if Corinne, I thought Corinne would have everybody's email address on her, link there. If she's
Okay,
background. I believe she's still on there. I mean, it would be
would
easier.
you like me to forward it to Corinne and ask her to send it to all of
Yeah,
you?
you want to do that? Because I
Okay.
would type in everybody's.
Okay,
I don't know if she'll be able to do that because she's doing the YouTube at this time, unless she wants to do the computer.
I
Oh,
can,
but
I
she
can
may
send
be able
it
to
to
do it on
everybody.
Oh, you can send it to everybody? Okay.
all right, let me find it here. Wednesday the
Yeah, I
7th.
see Dave's is on there. Dave's email on there. Yeah, she only sent it out to 3 people, Barb.
And did?
And
Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay, let me forward this right now to Corinne. I've got your email.
Yeah, thanks for speaking up, Richard. I was looking frantically, looking at my emails. I thought maybe I missed it.
Right?
yeah,
That's what I thought. I'm sitting going, what did I miss? I missed something somewhere. Yeah. And I just, oh, shoot. Nope. I got this one, but yeah, there was no other packet one.
All right, thank you
I
for
figured I
catching
better-
that.
Figured I
Okay.
better say something before we get so far into it. And I'm sitting going, I don't have any questions to tell you if I know which ones they are or not.
Which
All right.
email are the candidates in?
Corinne, I just sent you 2 emails. If you could forward both of those emails to the board, it covers everything we're going to be talking about tonight. Thank you very, very much.
What did you say, Josh? I couldn't understand you. Did you ask a question?
Yeah, I'll just await these 2 emails. I got the one, but I didn't get the second one. I don't think.
okay, Corinne is gonna resend it out now, so we should get it here in a minute.
So just to confirm, the interviews on Monday and Tuesday you discussed, you will be holding those via Zoom, correct? Where you will all be just like you are right now, and we can see your bright smiling faces, and the candidates will be remote as well, right?
Correct.
Okay, so in that case, I did, when you see the questions, assign board members to each of those questions, so you know who asks which questions and when. So that's what I was talking about when you weren't seeing it in front of you, and I'm sorry about that. But generally speaking, it's nice if you can have some interaction with the candidates. So when you see the round 1 questions, they are the ones that you already confirmed with Dave that you'd like to ask in that first round. But you've each been assigned about 2 questions each for the candidates, both Monday and Tuesday. So let me know when you see those in front of you. Open packet 1, if you would, first in the first email.
Oh, come on.
So I can open packet 2, but packet 1 is giving me an error when I open it. Am I the only one that's getting an error for packet 1?
Nope, I'm getting an error as well.
Huh.
It says failed to load PDF document.
Okay. I will send another email. Instead of forwarding it, I'll just insert packet 1 into another email to Corinne, see if that helps. All right, I sent packet 1 to Corinne directly, and hopefully you'll be able to open that one. Maybe it got corrupted with all the forwarding that we're doing.
How does packet 1 start?
The
So I
first
can tell
document
which
is
one's
Houston
labeled
Public
packet
Schools
1.
Round 1 Questions Final is the first page of packet 1.
The second email that Corinne sent works. I can open up packet 1 now.
Great, thank you. Does everyone have packet 1 open yet, where the first page is round 1 questions final?
Working on it.
Raise your hand if you have packet 1, so I don't start without somebody. Mark, Josh.
That says
Tom, Richard.
round 1 questions, right?
Correct, final. Has the word final on it? Okay, so we're ready to roll. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. There's some technical difficulties here. So the first thing we're talking about are those round 1 questions. And again, you've already gone over these with Dave. The only difference is I have placed the first 3 questions on here, candidate, interview, and board member, because that aligns with the electronic form you're going to be using to evaluate candidates' answers to each of these questions. So you do have a total of 16 questions, even though it says 19. Does that make sense? I always want to make sure people are okay with that. You have 16 questions you're asking, and I inserted your name by each of these questions. So what we're looking for tonight is to ensure that these are still the questions that you'd like to ask. The last question always being, do you have any questions for us? If you're comfortable with these, we can move on, but I wanted you to see them again because last time you saw them, they were in a list of about 30 to 40 questions.
I got one question. It seems like both of my questions are like 2 or 3 questions jammed into one, which is fine. I don't mind doing that. I'm just wondering if I need to rattle those off consecutively or if I need to wait for an answer and then ask the follow-up question. Does that make sense?
Yep, you did get saddled with the long ones, didn't you, Mark?
I did. I just noticed that. I was like, man, I'm good luck right here.
The luck of the draw. You could do it either way. Generally speaking, we recommend you do it in one just because they might give you a really long answer. And then if you ask another one, they may have partially answered it. So you want to give them the context of the whole thing. You could say, I have a 2-part question, and then you read them. And then, or I have a 3-part question. Now, normally, this is something I'd also like the board's approval on. Normally, we do send these questions to each of the candidates exactly 5 minutes before their interview. So they have a copy in front of them while you read the questions off. Not everyone is an auditory learner where they hear what you say and totally grasp it. Many folks like to be able to read them as well. So is it okay with the board if we share this list with the candidates 5 minutes before their own interviews? No further than that? Does anyone object to that happening? Okay, I think it helps the candidate get a better grasp of what you're asking, especially, for instance, in Mark's case, these are long questions. And so they might want to refer back to them and make sure they've answered everything that you've asked. So we will plan to send these out to each of your finalists 5 minutes before they interview. But yeah, Mark, I think I'd ask them all at once, but let them know up front it's a 2- or 3-parter.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I have one that's a 3-parter.
Richard has a 3-parter?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
lucky
think
you.
that's convenient, Richard, that we're kind of with the newer guys and we get these really long ones. No, I'm just
Right.
kidding.
I didn't do it on purpose, I
Fair
swear.
enough. Fair enough. We're good.
All right, are you comfortable with round 1? Because what we'll do if you are, is I'll send these questions to our administrative assistant and she will load these questions into that EMD form. I'm gonna send you as board members the link then so you can practice. All right, it's a use of technology that has proven really, really efficient for us. What I'd recommend is you print the EMD form off in hard copy. And as a candidate answers the question, you think, they exceeded my expectations, they met them or they didn't. And you fill in E, M, or D every time they answer a question. And then when their interview is done, you have a 15-minute break. You're gonna log into the link and enter your results. And we want you entering them after each interview so that we can compile them at the end for your deliberations much more quickly. But you'll have a practice link. But for the record, we're good with the round 1 questions. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. So we've confirmed round 1 interview questions. And then I wanted to touch on the round 1 interview schedule. This is the same schedule you saw last week. I have not changed anything. I would like the verbiage clarified. Everything in yellow is what I still need to fill in. Clearly, I can't fill in the finalist names until after this evening's meeting, but these will be done via Zoom. We confirmed that. So how will the public have access to the interviews? Is that first sentence sufficient? Maybe this is a CRIN question. All interviews will be held via Zoom and will be live streamed on YouTube. Is that enough, or do I need to point people toward a link or somewhere to find the link for the meeting?
I would think we could just do like we talked about at our meeting, and we say the way we do our board meetings, so they have access to it. Put it out.
Okay.
And did I get with you on that, Barb, on how we do the board meetings?
I haven't received anything yet. What verbiage I should use?
Okay, well,
I-
we can have Corinne make a note of that.
Okay, I'll double check on the language, but I can put all the interviews will be held via Zoom and will be live streamed on YouTube.
Correct.
That might be enough, or go to the district
Yeah.
website to find the link.
Well, I
Something
think
like
yeah, go to district website to find the link. Then we'll-
Okay.
It's there.
Great. All right, now, of course, this schedule could adjust if you choose to interview fewer than 4 candidates. But this is tentatively what we are recommending for then next Monday and Tuesday. We're going to circle back to this after you've identified how many finalists you will be interviewing. We'll circle back to the interview schedule for Monday and Tuesday just to make sure that it aligns. Okay, but for now, this is what we're looking at. Still fits your calendars? Good to go?
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you. Then the third page in packet 1, you had asked Dave for some suggestions on questions you might be asked. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dave here for a minute to address the questions that superintendent candidates might have for you.
Okay, thank you, and welcome tonight. It's fun to work with you people. It's going to be a great experience for all of us. Basically, just looking at the questions there, Tom had asked if I could kind of put together a little list of questions that you might be asked from the candidates themselves. And so I just want to take a few seconds here to look at this. Number one, I believe that this is going to be a question you're going to be asked. What are the online responsibilities of a superintendent in your district? Number two, what skills and personal characteristics are you looking for in your new superintendent? Even though they're in the personnel profile that you did off there, that's a typical question that you may be asked from superintendent candidates. Another one there is what great things are happening in your district. Number four, what is the school district's vision and what are the school board's short and long-term goals is a question that's very frequently asked. What are the school district's biggest challenges? How will the school board support the new superintendent? What are the current school district's educational initiatives? Number 8, how does the school board evaluate the superintendent? Usually they don't ask that one till the second one, but every once in a while it comes up the first one, but usually that's not till the second interview. What is the biggest driver of the local economy? And that's important that they might want to ask because, you know, if you have, let's say, in Hutchinson, when 3M shut down, of course, a lot of their people left. And so, of course, a lot of the kids left. So that's very, very important for our superintendent as they're looking for what the district's going to look like in the future. Also, what is the process for the facilitation of teacher negotiations? That might come up this time simply because, you know, we're coming into the negotiations time frame here. In what ways does the school board and the city work together? And 12, does the school district have any issues which I should be aware? So those are a dozen questions that might be asked. I mean, there could be some other questions, but these are the questions that are most frequently asked that I've been involved with. And I just really believe that there are going to be some questions about the online responsibilities because that will be different than what most superintendent responsibilities would be. So any questions that you have there for me or any things that you think I may have left out? I guess I just wanted you to be aware, and I think Tom felt the same way, is that, you know, you kind of want to have some ideas to think about, you know, beforehand, before the question actually comes up. And there's no necessarily one person that has to answer the questions, but usually, you know, the board president is the person that will be the first lead and then maybe tag off to somebody else. But I just wanted you to be aware so that nobody felt uncomfortable if people did ask you those questions and you had a little time to think about it ahead of time.
Thanks.
All right. Someone say
Okay.
something.
No,
Okay.
I just said thanks, Dave. Appreciate putting it together.
These are great questions. I hear the one real often too, about what are you most proud of in your school district? So that's that same thing. Just whatever happens at the interviews, when candidates ask questions, please chime in. We don't want Tom answering all of the questions, and we also sometimes just don't want one person answering. We'd love to see you all build on it and chip in and continue to sort of share your own personal opinions. Sometimes, like with that one question about great things happening in your school district, it's even better if every single board member has a chance to say what you're most proud of in the school district. So please feel free to share your thoughts because candidates want to see that and they want to see you work together and they want to get to know you. So this is a great start. It'll be fun to keep track on Monday and Tuesday as to which one of these actually get asked. So great job, Dave. Thank you. The next two scripts I want to go through just so you know what to expect. There's the candidate interview script, And then the second one right after it is the deliberation script. I'm not going to dwell on it because you have it in front of you and you can look at it more over the weekend. A lot of this will fall on Tom's shoulders as chair, but I want you to know how things sort of progress during the interviews, and then especially during your deliberations as you decide who you want to bring back for the next round of interviews. The opening statement here, I'm going to leave that completely up to Tom. It is for meetings that are being held by electronic means. So your interviews Monday and Tuesday would fit in this category. So the opening statement by the board chair, Tom, you can make this fit your own style or what Houston has used in the past regarding electronic meetings. As for the meeting agenda, that's where the rubber meets the road. So Tom will welcome the candidate. They'll also be on Zoom with you. Let them know that you're interviewing candidates over 2 days and when the second round of interviews will occur. Also, take out the line that says on the second paragraph, today I will be asking school boards questions for you. I wanted to leave that in there in case you wanted him to do all the asking, but I think it's better if you split it up. Just make sure that you're muting and unmuting your mic so we don't lose too much time when it's your turn to ask the question. So I would replace that with, today, all board members will be asking you questions or something like that. I would point out that you're taking notes so they don't think you're ignoring them when you're looking down all the time. If you're taking notes or marking your EMD form. But again, Tom, make it your own language so you're comfortable with what the introduction looks like. It does say we've provided a copy of the interview questions for you, which Dave will be sending to each person 5 minutes beforehand. So they'll have it in front of them. And there are 16 questions. The to be determined would be 16, although it shows 19 on that form. And then Dave will be notifying you when there are 30 minutes left in the time. So I'm not big on electronic screen sharing, so he's going to do what I usually do, which is this, and let you know when you're at the 30-minute mark. Not too high tech. Likewise, he'll hold something like this up if you're at 5 minutes. And if someone runs out of time, we usually let them run 1 to 2 minutes over their 1 hour, and then this is held up and they need to wrap it up. We want to make sure that no one gets more time than someone else. So Dave will be your timekeeper, and you'll let the candidate know that we will let them know when there's 30 minutes remaining in their time. And then you will want to introduce yourselves. So how do you want to handle that? Do you want to go in alphabetical order, or is the way you typically, unmute, you say your name and how long you've served, or welcome to whomever it is? But you want the interviews to go pretty quickly so you're not cutting into the interview time. So how do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yes. I don't know. I mean, when I talk, I just go off of how everybody comes up on the screen. So, when I ask for a roll call vote, but I mean, that's probably not the same on everybody's screen. So if we went into do it like alphabetically, it would be like Arlen, kind of go down the list that way. That may be the easiest for everybody to remember, right? Who's first, who's second?
Can we just have Tom do a roll call, like just go first name Josh, and then we unmute, say our thing out, and then just
I can do that.
Go next. I
Sure.
mean,
That'll work.
more or
Let's call
less,
on
just
you.
like you do eyes, he just calls by
Yeah.
first name, and then we'll.
Jump in.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So introduce
Okay,
yourselves.
we'll do it-
How
we'll do
long
it
you've been on the
that way.
board. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. So then you'll ask your questions and you'll keep track on the EMD form. Again, I would recommend printing it so you have a hard copy to keep track on. And then a closing summary by Tom. You can say this or you can say something else. It's just a matter of saying, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. And then when the interview is over, I will ask you to log into that link. So you want to be able to access it on your computer. It's super easy, and enter your results immediately after that first, second, third interviews, etc. There are no stakeholders providing input on the round 1 interviews, but for round 2, they'll be submitting their feedback during that same 15-minute break. It's a slightly different form. The audience input form doesn't ask for them to evaluate each question like yours does. Instead, once they've listened to the whole interview, the audience input form asks them to submit their thoughts on up to 2 strengths for each candidate and up to 3 opportunities for growth for each candidate. So they'll send those electronic surveys to us as well after round 2 interviews. And then we will summarize those and have those ready for you before you begin deliberations in round 2. Is there any questions on how the interviews go? It's really smooth. And after your first one, it's super easy. Okay, so let's talk deliberations, because that will be after you've interviewed all of your finalists. Again, if you'd like to read the opening statement, you certainly can. You don't have to read that opening statement, Tom, for every single interview, because really you're doing one board meeting. You're calling the meeting to order at, was it 5:25 on Monday? And then that meeting is not adjourning until the evening of Tuesday. It's one long meeting. You continue it overnight. So if you read the opening statement electronically one time, you're covered because it is one big meeting. You can if you want to, but you don't have to read it every single time. This was for a board that wanted to do separate meetings for every single one. All right, candidate deliberation process. This is not a script. This just tells you what to expect. The first thing is that we will have those EMD results back, and then Dave is going to very briefly cover that with you. He'll have emailed it to you as well, so you're looking at it during your deliberations. What it's going to show is what your fellow board members felt about answers to these questions. And you'll see trends. You'll see one candidate that has a lot of E's, and that's good. Exceeds is good. You might also see a candidate that has a lot of those D's, does not meet. Well, that's not so good. So he's not going to go into depth about who got how many, not going to rank anybody. We're not going to talk about the numbers during the interview deliberations, but you'll have it in front of you and you'll be able to see the trends of who the school board anonymously has rated higher than others. Okay, so he'll do that first. That's no more than 2 minutes. You'll have it in front of you to refer to. It's just one tool that you're going to use during deliberations, okay? The next thing is that Tom is going to call for your observations on the candidates. By that time, you'll be using their names. Tonight, no names, just the A, B, C. However, after their interviews, clearly everybody knows who you're talking about. So you want to talk about the candidates in terms of what really were you impressed with in their interviews? What strengths did they bring to the table for Houston? So Tom might open it and say, okay, first, let's talk about John Doe, whatever their name might be. Who wants to share a strength or two you noticed about John? So someone should raise their hand or jump in, and then someone else shares a strength and someone else shares a strength until you've gone around the table enough times where you've really pointed out the highlights of the strengths that John Doe brought to his interview. There is no need to go into the negatives to point out anything that didn't go well. There really isn't. That can go unsaid. And if you have far more strengths that you're sharing about one candidate than another, that's enough said. But please don't go into the negative realm of things because it doesn't really contribute to the process. The only time you could go into perhaps the weaknesses or the negative side is if you're in a tie where you can't decide between two candidates. Their strengths are both really, really good. It might then at that point be helpful to say, okay, well, one of our hiring criteria, I hear music. Got it. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I wasn't muted.
It happens. If you're in a tie with two candidates and everyone's strengths are great, well, then you might want to go back to the hiring criteria and find a hiring criteria and say, look, one of the things we're looking for is experience in special ed. Does someone have more experience than the other in that area? And so then you can maybe point to some of the weaknesses as a tiebreaker. But generally speaking, share strengths. Once you've done that for all of the finalists, however many you're going to interview, then Tom is going to say, all right, that was great. We clearly have a strong pool. Would someone like to start by sharing who you'd like to bring back for round 2? So then we're going to rely on board members to share, well, I'm leaning toward, John Doe and Jane Smith. I'd like to see them again on Thursday. And then someone else will chime in. You'll start to see a consensus build amongst the board about who you think are the strongest candidates. You can bring back 3 people, you can bring back 2. That's completely up to you as a board. But once you've seen that consensus build and it's pretty clear that the board knows who they want to see again, then someone makes a motion to extend the interview opportunity for a second round to John Smith and Jane Doe. And then when you pass that motion, you know who's coming back on Thursday. Dave will call those candidates, let them know, help them pick their interview times, and we'll go from there. That's deliberations in a nutshell. Any questions on it? Okay. All right, after you have completed that round one, so Tuesday night, you've done deliberations, you've decided who you're bringing back, you do still need to discuss and finalize your round two questions. Finalize them. We'll look at them tonight, and maybe you can even finalize them tonight. You also want to discuss the stakeholder input and make sure that that's ready to go on Thursday. You also want to confirm that reference check process. And if I remember correctly, Tom was going to make a couple of reference check calls for each of the final finalists before Thursday. And then you were going to discuss and decide how the negotiations process is going to work. Does Tom, as board chair, have your authority to move forward and talk to your chosen candidate about negotiations? Those are loose ends for Tuesday night. They shouldn't take you very long because you should have the groundwork laid for all four of those. Okay, are you comfortable with having that be the way you wrap up Tuesday night? Okay, sounds good. Now, when you deliberate Thursday, if you've interviewed 2 people or 3 people, it's the exact same deliberations process. First, you'll receive the EMD form from Dave, and it'll give you a hint of which of the 2 or which of the 3 really was strongest in the interview according to your evaluations. You'll also talk about the strengths. So for instance, if John Smith is in round 2, you all talk about the strengths of John, and Tom will give an update on his reference check calls for John, very brief, maybe a minute, 2 minutes about what he learned about John from the references. And finally, Dave will read a summary of the stakeholder input on John Smith. So there's a little bit more to it on Thursday because there's more steps, but you still want to do it one candidate at a time. Talk about your first candidate, strengths, reference calls, stakeholder input. And then you move on to Jane Smith. You talk about her strengths, the reference update, and stakeholder input. That's the only difference in round 2. Okay, and then you will somehow, as a board, come to a consensus about which candidate you want to make an offer to. Questions on deliberations? Best piece of advice is just keep it positive and focused on strengths. It makes a great impression on the candidates if they're listening to your deliberations. Makes a great impression on the community about how positive you are and how well you work together. That is it for packet 1. I'm done with that unless anyone has any questions. Not seeing any. Please open packet 2. It's shorter, and that was also in that first email. I'm going to turn this over to Dave because the first item in packet 2 is the draft of the round 2 questions. And most of these came from your conversation last week with Dave. So Dave, I'm going to mute myself and turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, again, we looked at these last week, and we kind of came up with 9. And you see there's 13, but again, the first 3 numbers there just for the electronic version. But basically, we looked at those questions, and if you look a little bit further, I did give you some potential second round questions. Normally, we don't have quite as many questions on the second round because we want to get more in depth and get them going and talking a little bit more, and especially giving us examples of what it is that they have done or been involved with. So that's very, very important. So a lot of these questions will be there to get them to talk more about what they have actually done. And so you can see there, question 4 through 12 as are questions that we talked about last week. Again, trying to fit the profile leadership. We try to take one from each one of the profile leaderships. But then I've added on the potential second round questions. There's some questions there that you might want to add. Right now, we basically have 10 questions. We prefer to have, you know, between usually 12 to 14 questions for the second round. And so what I'm going to ask you tonight, if we can, is to maybe look at some of these other questions, or maybe there's some other questions that you have that you think we should add in here for the second round. I didn't know if there's any specific questions that you were wondering about, but a couple things that may be interesting that are, you know, let's say number E, what is your experience in organizing and levy and or bond referendum. I don't know if that's something that you're, looking at in the future. Certainly, F there, what has been your experience with budget management, budgetary controls, and budget reduction? In your situation, maybe G, how have you been involved in using technology and administration and instructional programs? All these are some questions that might be good, but I didn't know exactly where you're thinking about. Letter K sometimes is a good one. Upon review of Houston Public Schools hiring criteria, is there anything about your work experience that you like to highlight for us? Sometimes the questions don't always get all the things that the superintendents or people coming in have experienced or are very proud of, and some things that they want you to know about. So I'd like to just have you look over the potential second round questions A through K there. And is there any of them that you like or that you think that we should be asked in the second round? I guess that's my question. And it doesn't have to be from this list either. If you have some questions that you would really like to ask or have asked, we can add that too. But I think it's easier if we do it tonight, because after we deliberate on Tuesday night, that's gonna be a longer night anyway. So it'd be good to have these second round questions done ahead of time, I think.
I know one thing that we've kind of become accustomed to is number A on that potential list. How do you keep the school board informed? Now, in the past, we brought that up. I think if you remember that, Mimi, that because I think Eric kind of started that whole board note, sending us something out every week, correct? I believe it was Eric. And we kind of like that to know.
Okay, well, that's an excellent question. Yeah, you guys want to know, the board wants to know how you're going to be informed. I think that's an excellent question.
I don't know. What are your thoughts? Anybody? I like that one, and I like the G, and I like the K one. Those three were my thoughts anyway. But again, that's just me. I'd like to hear from everybody else.
I like K as well. I think it's a good one to have just in case we miss something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like K as well. I wouldn't disagree with A either. I think that's keeping us informed, or how we do that, or how they do that. I think that would be it'd be a good question as well.
Anybody else have any input? Gene, Pete, Josh, Richard?
I like G because of that'll give us more with our online to instructional.
Okay.
I was thinking a tech question too, so G would be good.
Nope, those are good ideas, Tom.
Okay. So you just want to add those three if everybody's in agreement, the A, G, and K?
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Thanks, David.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
All right, great, thank you. So if you want to take a look at the second round interview schedule, it does say draft, and that's because it is dependent upon how many people you want to invite back for round 2 on the 15th. So tentatively, I've penciled in 3 people. That could change Tuesday night if you feel you'd like to only bring back 2. And so Tuesday night, we'll finalize where it's highlighted in yellow, candidate 1, 2, and 3 with the names of who you'd actually like to interview. Are these times still okay with everybody? Okay, good. I'd like to talk for just a moment then about the stakeholder involvement in round 2. Josh, I want to thank you for putting in the time and effort to send the names of the stakeholders who are interested and available to contribute their thoughts to the search process. And all of the board should have received that last week. I think I sent it out through Ann, so you should have seen the names of the folks Josh has talked to and who have volunteered to represent all of the stakeholder groups across the district. I didn't receive any additions to that or changes. I think I had said, let me know by Friday night, and I didn't hear from anyone. So I got the 11 that originally Josh had proposed, and then a 12th added as well. Would it be helpful if I read the names out loud to refresh your memory about who those 12 people would be who have set aside time on Thursday to help you next Thursday? Or do you have the list in front of you as a refresher?
Anybody need the list read out?
No.
I remember I looked at it, so I'm good, but
I have all of their email addresses. And again, thanks, Josh. Really, truly appreciate how organized you were on this. What I will do is reach out to those folks on Monday. I'll send an email to all of these 12 stakeholders with these email addresses. I'll copy Tom as board chair on it and let them know that we appreciate, for one, the time and energy they're putting into the superintendent search. And I'll tell them what time the interviews are scheduled for Thursday, and I'll send them a practice link for the audience input form. So they can go in electronically and kind of play around and figure out how they want to put their comments in Thursday after the interviews. So I'll follow up with those folks Monday, and then I'll send another email Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, letting them know exactly when they need to be available and online. So they'll need the Zoom link as well. I'll talk to Corinne about that Zoom link for the interviews. If you do your interviews Thursday via Zoom, because I know you were thinking, well, by Thursday, maybe we can do these in person. It's a week from today. Do you want to decide right now whether it'll be Zoom for round 2, or do you want to wait and see how Monday and Tuesday go and then make a game day decision about Thursday?
I mean, I'm fine with doing Zoom, but in person, I think it's kind of nice. But I know we've kind of, I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are. Some people are leery about meeting up. Josh, you have a question input there?
Just remind me, so how much time do we have? It's easy for us because we're local, but the candidates, because I like the game day decision, but I don't want it to be unreachable for them, or very, just travel wise, or, you follow me?
Yeah.
Is that possible to allow them a fair?
To allow them the choice of coming in person if you're in person, or to join you via Zoom, to leave that up to a candidate, or am I not understanding your question?
Well, no, I mean, how much, for preparation for travel, do you think that's a feasible amount of time? If they think they're going Zoom and all of a sudden we say, come on in.
Great
I
point.
guess we
Okay.
could give them the choice too if they're uncomfortable. meeting
I
in
would
person.
think we'd want to make that decision now,
Mhm.
so they understand that the second rounds would potentially be in person.
Yeah.
Because as far as travel for next week, I'm sure they need to make preparations. I don't think 2 days is a very good notice for people, in my opinion. So
Yep, I agree that we should probably decide that tonight, just because I know just seeing some of the information over 2 days is pushing it to give them time to get here for the second round.
So we can go around the room and ask. I mean, I'm fine either way. It's nice to see people, and maybe they would like to come in to see us. But again, I'm one of many here. So Gene, what are your thoughts? In person?
Most of them are working and they would have to take off, and everything else, and that puts a burden on them as well. So I think the Zoom is fine.
Zoom, you think is fine? Okay, Mimi?
I would love to meet in person, but we have to wear masks, right? Yeah, so kind of takes away a certain aspect of meeting someone in person when you have to wear a mask. So I'm open either way the group decides.
Okay, Pete?
So if we have them come in person, which I would rather have too, but they're sitting there with a mask on the whole time. I'm not sure there's a point in having them come in then. We don't even get to see them really. So I guess if we're required to have masks on, then we might as well Zoom. It accomplishes the same thing then. It would be way better if we could meet them in person, because we're basically hiring somebody just off their camera appearance.
Okay. Richard?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely like to at least meet the person, and if you could meet them in person, even with the masks on, you can see how they gesture, how they eyes can still give away a lot of, I mean, there's more body movement, more body language that you can't see on the camera and stuff that might give some hints, maybe some personalities and stuff that you might see a little easier without the delays in the camera.
Okay, Mark?
Well, I think I agree with everybody. I mean, it'd be great if we could do this whole process in person, right? And but in light of the current situation and what's going on, you don't know how people are really setting their heads as far as what's going on with everything. Maybe they're really reluctant to meet in person. I just soon keep it Zoom to keep it simple and keep it easy. Otherwise, I just think there's just too many unknowns, and somebody might want to show up, another person might not want to, right? So, and just I think we just continue with the Zooms.
One
Josh?
thing I think, Tom, we have to have, whatever they do, they all have to do the same thing. So if we want them to Zoom, then they all have to Zoom. It wouldn't be fair to one to
No,
allow somebody to appear in person and somebody else not to. I don't think that'd be fair.
no, you're right. Josh? I just want to make sure you get everybody input here.
Yeah, I would say in person like Richard, but I follow everyone and I agree. And I think Zoom is what we're stuck with.
Okay.
So
Barb, it's been going
I
okay
would-
with others?
if you're gonna register my vote, I vote with Richard, even with
Barb, you said everybody's kind of been doing Zoom up to this point, correct?
Up to this point, every client of ours since last March have done their interviews via Zoom or Google Meet or whatever. We haven't had anyone do them in person, but I know there are some districts conducting interviews in person. The biggest challenge we've run into from what I've heard in those districts is they plan on in person, and at the last minute, either a candidate or a board member has to quarantine because they've been exposed to COVID. So on very short notice, they need to then be available electronically because for those 10 days, they can't go anywhere. So depending upon what's happening in the school buildings they may be working in or within their families, if they need to quarantine or any of you need to quarantine, even though you're feeling healthy, you can't meet in person. So that's been a wrench that's thrown into some of the folks I've talked to that have done them in person.
Okay.
But thus far, everyone has worked well electronically. It's
Yeah, I was gonna say, from what we're getting from all the members of the board, they're fine with doing Zoom. And I think to simplify it for everybody, kind of like what Pete said, everybody do it the same way. We'd all love to meet him in person, but we have to do what we have to do. So I would
okay.
do it Zoom.
So then I'll have to work with Corinne because all of the 12 stakeholders for round 2 will need the Zoom link then for Thursday the 15th. And then Dave will be visiting with all of the candidates this evening. So Dave, one of the things you can share is that round 1 and round 2 will be done via Zoom. So they'll know what to expect then next week, Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday if they're invited back.
Yep.
Okay.
So in the past, we've never given out the Zoom link. If we have additional people that aren't board members, would they join and then just not have their camera on so that who we're interviewing knows that board members are the ones with their cameras on? Or how would
Or
that-
they could watch the live streaming because your district is live streaming the whole thing, right? All of the interviews.
Yeah, so we could give them a link to the live stream where they could then see.
That'll work. Yep.
Okay. I just
Thank
don't
you.
want to confuse the candidate by having,
Yep.
people on the call and them not knowing which square is going to ask a question.
Thank you for that, Mimi. I appreciate it. So the live stream link needs to be provided to those 12 stakeholders. They can watch it live and then they'll have the link from us to put their feedback in. So, okay, fabulous. Thank you. All right, I think you'll enjoy having stakeholders involved and the comments are very, very productive. Dave will forward to you the results of the audience input forms in a summary format. So when you're doing deliberations next Thursday night for 2 or 3 people, you'll have that EMD form to give you one glimpse of how board members felt. You'll have the reference check report from Tom about what he learned on your final 2 or 3 folks. And you'll have an audience input summary of what your stakeholders have said about their strengths and or any weaknesses that they might have noticed. So you'll have that in front of you and then you move into deliberations and try and sort through who you feel is the best fit for Houston and who you'd like to make an offer to. So any questions on stakeholders round 2? All right, one final thanks to Josh for doing that again. That can be a lot of work and I think it's really going to be beneficial to your district to have them involved. That is all for packet 1 and packet 2. So we're now ready to move on to the final part of our meeting this evening, which is the candidate presentation. That's the second email, which Corinne perhaps has forwarded to you already. The PDF you'll want to open is called Houston Candidate Presentation Packet. Why don't you let me know when you've got that open? This is the third and final step for the board tonight. The first page of that packet says Houston Superintendent Search Candidates. Do not read any of the names out loud, but you will see a list of names with highlights. That's page 1. All right, if you're looking at the candidate presentation packet, give me a thumbs up so I know everybody's got it open. Otherwise, I don't want to move forward. Jean, do you see it? Or Pete? Not yet? No rush. I just want to make sure you have it open before I start talking more.
I have a lot of emails from Corinne, so I'm trying to pull up each one and I got to pull it up on my phone, so.
Okay. And this one would have come tonight at the beginning of our meeting, right on the heels of the other ones that she sent to you. The subject line would say for Thursday's meeting, comma, CONT for continued.
Jean, did you get it? I'm assuming that's a yes, right, Jean, since you're muted? Yeah, he's talking again, so.
Okay.
Okay,
Have it.
okay.
Okay, I found it.
Great. All right. Thank you, everyone. So my first reminder before we get into the candidate presentation is that do not use names. Do not use gender pronoun, he or she. Do not reference their specific work backgrounds, where they've worked, how long, any identifying features because of the data privacy laws. We want to ensure that you're speaking about these candidates only as their alphabet identifiers. So the list on the front is the list of applicants that I know you've already been through on Revelis. Thank you very much for taking the time to go into the database, review all the applications. The highlighted names are those that MSBA is presenting as worthy of interviewing for your position. And the second page in this packet tells you why and how we arrived at that conclusion. The vetting process, and I apologize you didn't have time to read all of this before tonight's meeting, but I'll tell you briefly with an overview how we arrive at our conclusions. So as soon as the deadline passes, we go in and look at all of the applications in Revelis to ensure that they're complete. We make sure that everything that was supposed to be uploaded was uploaded, that they have the information that is required, and then we forward them to you the next day. So that's the first step, is making sure they're complete. And then we have a group of service providers. In addition to Dave, we had several other service providers go through those applications with a fine-tooth comb. We ask each of them individually to rate each person individually as a yes, maybe no, or no. And so they then fill out a form for us called our application review form. And I collect all of those forms electronically from our service providers. And then I share it with them for our meetings called an app review meeting. And then we look at the applications and the trends. And in this case, I have to tell you, the pool was very strong for Houston. There was a lot of yes and maybe yes right off the bat. There were no candidates that our service providers said no to, or even maybe no. So it was very high quality. I know the quantity was not huge, but the quality was very strong in terms of the folks interested in your position. Once we've identified the ones that we'd like to recommend to the board for interviewing, we do a deeper dive. Every service provider will take those names, we divide them up, and then they call the candidate themselves to do a pre-interview. They talk to references for the candidate and ask specifically about some of the things that are in your hiring criteria. And they take a closer look at some of the information in the application packet. Once we're satisfied that all of those things check out, then the service providers put together a presentation form, which is something that Dave Thompson's going to read for you this evening. So it's a very thorough process. It takes us almost a week to do that, to arrive at the conclusions as far as how we're recommending who you interview. Now, it's important to keep in mind that you do not have to take our recommendations. You could choose to accept the same slate of candidates we're suggesting you recommend, or you could pull folks out of that list and choose not to interview them. This is a board decision. You won't hurt our feelings if for whatever reason you don't feel the same as we did about who you're going to interview. Once Dave has read a one-page summary of each of these candidates we're recommending, you can ask him questions as well. What about candidate C stood out? Or I have concerns about candidate A or B. You're welcome to do that, and he will, within his best of his ability, to answer those within the parameters of data privacy. You know, he's not going to be able to tell you anything that gives away the identification of these individuals, but Dave will do his best if you have questions about, you know, why or why not some of these folks. He'll be doing that next. So when you have decided as a board that you're comfortable moving forward, there's a list of motions in here in the back of that candidate, and you would be using that first motion tonight, which means offering first round interviews to candidate, and then you only use those letters, A, B, C, whatever it might be. Once that motion's been seconded and passed, then MSBA will read those names out loud for the first time. Because once they've been named a finalist by you, those names go public. So until that point, over the next however many minutes this is going to take, data privacy is extremely important. So with that, Dave, I'm going to turn it over to you unless there's questions on the process from the board. Yes, Pete.
How many, I missed this somewhere along the line. How many candidates did we have originally?
Your original applications were 4.
Total?
Mm-hmm.
So these are the 4 then?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And we were expecting a smaller pool. Most of our pools this year have been smaller than expected. I think I mentioned this early on in the process, because the numbers are smaller. We've also seen the quality of the candidates higher. We're not seeing tire kickers that aren't serious about it throwing their hat in the ring this year. And that was confirmed again with your pool as well. If you have questions on potentially why that may be an issue, I think Dave might have some thoughts on that as well, but it was smaller, but it's very strong. Any other questions before we move on to presenting you with our recommendations? Okay, Dave is going to take a moment and read 4 candidate presentation forms, referring to them as A, B, C, and D. You can take notes and see if those notes align with what you noticed when you were reviewing applications as well. So Dave, I'm going to mute and turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'll start out here then with the first one. MSBA recommends the Houston School District consider interviewing candidate A for the position of superintendent of schools for the 2021 school year. Candidate A is finishing requirements and will be applying for Minnesota licensure in April 2021 and has had experience as an administrator in multiple districts. References made the following statements about candidate A's leadership. A superintendent who worked with candidate A said, she is an ethical and compassionate educator and leader. She has students and their success in the forefront of her decision-making and leadership. She offers insightful viewpoints and professionalism with her colleagues, staff, parents, and community. She works tirelessly and continuously to support students and improve our systems to better support all of our students. She is definitely ready for the challenge and excitement of leading a district. A school board member in candidate A's district stated, candidate A has provided consistent leadership to teachers, support staff, and building leaders to establish a continuum of appropriate interventions, referral process, and evaluation and conclusions based on identified needs. She has provided the leadership and systematic changes that have required additional training and support. I'm impressed by her professionalism, knowledge, and background. An executive director of special education who worked with candidate A stated, candidate A is an excellent listener and is prepared to meet the needs and concerns of constituents in your district. She is calm and is articulate while also communicating her passion for ensuring the needs of all students are met. She is thoughtful in her approach to addressing concerns, responding situation. Candidate A meets the hiring criteria established by the school board by SD 294 and has acknowledged a desire to interview for the superintendent position if called by the district. Candidate B. MSBA recommends the Houston School District consider interviewing candidate B for the position of superintendent of schools for the 2021-22 school year. Candidate B holds a current Minnesota superintendent's license and has 8 years of experience as a school administrator. References made the following statements about candidate B's leadership. Candidate B's direct supervisor stated, candidate B is knowledgeable, organized, and high energy. Candidate B is all over the building, out and about talking with staff, teachers, and students. This candidate communicates with parents on a regular basis and is good with social media and technology. The reference also stated that candidate B is a real, genuine person. I believe the online learning piece has attracted him or her to this position. A superintendent who was candidate B's former supervisor for 4 years stated and wrote, candidate B is a go-getter and will not be complacent. She is going to want to do what she can do to keep improving the district. This candidate is able to make difficult and tough decisions. She will be at every event to support students. This reference also wrote that one of the skills that was appreciated most about candidate B was her commitment to being in the classroom, leading learning. A school board member in candidate B's district wrote and stated, candidate B has a very good reputation with students and staff, making sure staff have what they need to be successful in the classroom and providing time for planning and collaboration. I've never once questioned his or her honesty. She is a very straightforward and matter of fact. I would hate to see him, her leave, but completely understand that this would be a natural progression in meeting his or her career goals. This reference also wrote that candidates B professionalism at our board meetings exceeds our expectation. Candidate B provides detailed information at our board and we need to make decisions. Candidate B meets the hiring criteria established by the Houston Board. A school board has acknowledged a desire to interview for the superintendent position if called by the district. The next one, candidate C. MSBA recommends Houston School District consider interviewing candidate C for the position of superintendent of schools for the 2021-22 school year. Candidate C is finishing requirements and will be applying for Minnesota licensure in April 2021 and has had experience as an administrator in multiple districts. Reference made the following statements about candidate C's leadership. The superintendent who worked with candidate C stated, as a person, I have found she to be outstanding. She is responsible, flexible, dependable, and effective communicator, and an excellent leader. She is highly respected among students, staff, parents, and community. These qualities, along with a tireless work ethic and a genuine passion for whatever she takes on, makes she exceptional. She is a star. She is the top 3 school administrators that I've ever worked with in my career. An assistant superintendent who worked with candidate C district stated, candidate C is a leader who will be known for his or her positive influence on education. She will communicate and stand up for his or her passions. She uses reasoning to make her decisions. She was a great teacher and she brings these innovative ideas and practices to the principalship and will do so again as superintendent. She believes and expects all students to learn while also expecting all teachers and administrators to continue to improve their practice. A director of teaching and learning who worked with candidate C stated, candidate C will not be a leader that just manages, but she is an instructional leader prepared to guide his or her staff to continuous improvement. She focuses on data analysis, specific instructional strategies, and ongoing assessment. She possesses the skills to empower staff to strive to achieve at the highest level. She is a leader that shapes a positive school culture and values. Her positive attitude and optimism will surely set the culture for school community. She truly is an outstanding administrator. Candidate C meets the hiring criteria established by the school board ISD 94 and has acknowledged a desire to interview for the superintendent position if called by the district. The fourth one, MSBA recommends Houston School District consider interviewing candidate D for the position of superintendent of schools for the 2021-22 school year. Candidate D will be renewing her Minnesota licensure in April 2021 and has had experience as an administrator in multiple districts. References made to following statements about candidate D's leadership. A former student superintendent with whom the candidate worked stated, candidate D is very thoughtful and participatory. She is not a hard charging individual, rather is great at building relationships. She is a very visible in the building and has good ideas and no special education upside down. I would hire him or her back in a minute. A board member and candidate D's current district stated, candidate D has done a super job here and is fiscally savvy. She has taken us from a 3-star to a 5-star district. She connects with both elementary and secondary teachers and puts in a lot of time for our district. Another reference who works with candidate D said this about him or her. She is a great writer and speaker and is strong in relating to people. She utilizes data and does what is best for students. She is pleasant but holds his or her ground. She is a transformational leader and you won't find a more honest person. She has made some tough decisions in her current district, has a lot of common sense. She is also in charge of Summer Virtual Academy. Candidate D meets the hiring criteria established by the School Board of ISD 294, has acknowledged a desire to interview for the position, superintendent position, if called by the district. So those are the 4 candidates and a little bit about their leadership qualities.
Dave,
Do you have any questions?
yeah. Candidate D, you said renewing, so they are currently licensed superintendent or they will be receiving in April.
They have been
this month.
licensed before. They have been licensed before in Minnesota as a superintendent.
You didn't mention years of service as you did for candidate B. Is there years mentioned?
I can tell you that I gotta look at, I think she's been, administrative years, you mean?
Yeah.
I think
Like candidate B listed 8 years experience. So I was just comparing, superintendent years.
Yes, she has been, this person has been a superintendent for 3
It's not
years.
a deal breaker. I'm just kidding.
No, this person has been
Okay, thank you.
for 3 years, and she's been an administrator for 6 other years.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions for Dave?
Yeah, now Dave, with the candidates, like candidate D does have an online resume as well. In the resume, she puts a link to that. And are we supposed to go out and look at those things that are out there as well?
Yeah, you can do that, yes.
Because that candidate has a lot of references on that one as well.
Yes.
Any other questions?
It has stated there that this candidate has been in charge of a summer virtual academy before.
Okay, any other? So Barb, now we have to decide which ones we want to bring in, correct?
Correct. So now you can, as a board, discuss where you're leaning toward bringing in on Monday and Tuesday, 1, 2, 3, or 4 candidates, but those are the 4 that we felt met your hiring criteria. And yet this is, again, ultimately your choice as a board.
Tom, are we speaking freely or on roll call?
Well, you can, you're the first one to start speaking, so go ahead, Josh. Just remember,
I'd say I'd say I would extend to all four. I think we have 4 candidates. We have the time slots. We only get this opportunity so often, so.
Okay.
I'll pipe in. I agree with Josh. I think after reading all their criteria and everything that was given to us, and plus Dave's input, I think all 4 are pretty strong candidates, and I think we should interview all 4.
Okay, Richard?
Yeah, I am agreeing that I think we should bring in all 4 of them for interviews.
Okay. Gene?
Yeah, I'd have a hard time eliminating one at this time without interviewing all 4 of them first.
Okay, Pete?
Yeah, isn't it kind of sad? I think all of us are probably sitting here thinking we'd sure like to meet these people personally. And unfortunately, that won't happen. But I think being we only have 4, I think it's very fair to take a look at all 4. I do personally know one of these candidates, but I think we know all of them. We'll meet all of them, and then we can all personally say we've met them all, which we won't be doing now. But I think a Zoom is a very good idea, and I think if we can have all 4 of them come to a Zoom meeting, I think that would be a very good idea.
Okay, thanks. Mimi?
I think we should call back all 4. I think we're lucky to have 4 good candidates, so I'm happy that they all 4 applied, and I'm looking forward to getting to know them.
Okay, so what we need now is we need a motion to extend an offer for first round interviews.
I so move.
Okay, a motion by Pete. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, second by Richard. And remember, we're going to do a roll call vote. So Gene?
Yes.
Mimi?
Aye.
Pete?
Aye.
Okay, Josh?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Richard?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Okay, good. Hey, Barb, you got your notification.
Great. Thank you. Good deliberation, and we appreciate it. Before I read the names out loud for the first time, as far as who the semifinalists are in the Houston superintendent search, Dave and I do want to let you know that we are aware that 2 of these 4 candidates are finalists for other positions currently. We will find out tonight about one of them, and then the other not until next week. However, right now, all 4 will be contacted tonight by Dave. If and only if someone does drop out by Monday or Tuesday, my only question for you is, do you want to then do all 3 interviews and deliberations on Monday or Tuesday? Or do you still want to, if you're down to 3 candidates, which is a big if, I just want to know what you'd like to do with the schedule.
I would say we do them all one night if we get down to 3, unless somebody has a disagreement there. We kind of had that planned anyway, Barb.
Okay.
3, so why don't we do that? And if we continue with 4, then we'll do 2 and 2.
Okay. So would Monday be your choice to start at 5:30 and conduct a 3rd interview? Then you would be doing deliberations. You'd probably be there till about 10 o'clock at night that night if you do 3 interviews and deliberations and you start at 5:30. Are you good with that on Monday being a long day?
I'm fine with that as long as nobody else is upset with it. Everybody else good?
I'm good with that because that
Okay.
makes my Tuesday a little bit easier if that happened.
Okay.
All right. If, and again, a big if, some candidate does pull their name, we will plan on condensing everything onto Monday. And yet
Okay.
again, all 4 of them were very excited about this opportunity. Dave's talked to all of them, and I say it's unlikely, but we did want to make you aware of that fact anyway, just as a contingency. So if there are no further questions, I'm going to go ahead and read the names of the 4 folks that you'll be interviewing for the Houston Superintendency. I am not reading these in order. I am not starting with A and ending with D, just because we don't want folks to tie any of the comments we're making to their names. So I will also get a press release to you guys tonight to share with the press if you would like. Being interviewed for Houston, we have Kevin Babcock, Stephanie Hubbard, Sarah Knudsen, and Mary Morum. Those are the 4 finalists for Houston. So congratulations. We have no other business with you this evening for this meeting, but we will get started on contacting them. An email will go out tonight for them to schedule their interviews. It's on a first come, first served basis as far as who signs up for which interviews. We'll get the EMD link to you for practice so you can practice with those interview questions for round 1. And I'm excited to see what happens next for your district. But do you need anything at this point from Dave or myself before we log off?
I guess I just have a quick question. Were these candidates all recommended by the MSBA?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. If we felt that some of them were not up to caliber to meet your hiring criteria and serve the district, we would not have recommended them, regardless of the size of the pool. We only recommend those we're comfortable with. So all 4 of them were, yes. Any other?
One question for you, though. One of the candidates had indicated that Monday may be a tough day for her because of a board meeting situation. Is Tuesday a viable option or not?
Again,
If we go down to 3 people, I mean.
yeah, I mean, we have
Yeah.
Tuesday already, so I would say yes. I think it would be beneficial to us to do it that way.
We
Okay.
could,
Have
we could do
4
the
good
second.
candidates would be the best, to do our due diligence would be to talk to all of them.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And Tom, if we did the second one on Tuesday, if there's 3 only instead of the time slot, would that give Herdman
All right.
time to get there?
Right.
That would be plan B. I think,
Yeah,
however,
yeah.
at this moment, you're good to
Right.
go with interviews on both Monday and Tuesday and deliberations on Tuesday. That's what you should plan on, and we'll fill in the names of the candidates as they sign up for interview slots and also get that back out to the board so you know who to expect and when. All
Okay.
right, so you'll be hearing a lot from us over the next few days. Well done. Thank you for the opportunity to present the candidates. And again, we're excited to see how next week goes for you.
Okay.
Josh, did you have a question?
No, I think you were just waving goodbye.
Oh,
Thanks, Barb. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Thanks, Barb. So
Okay.
motion to adjourn. No further questions? Motion.
Yes, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Do I have a second?
I can second.
Second.
Second by Gene. All in favor. Again, we'll do roll call. Richard,
Aye.
Josh,
Aye.
Pete,
Aye.
Mimi,
Aye.
Gene, we already heard from you and Mark. So
Aye.
thanks.
feel free over the weekend to take a look at that stakeholder survey report to refresh your memory of what your stakeholders are saying about qualifications. And then you can always go back into Revelis, take a look at those applications and letters of reference again. All of that information is at your disposal before you meet on Monday. Okay?
Thanks, Barb. Thanks.
This time I mean it. I'm heading out. Bye, everybody.
All right, thank you. Thank you. See ya.
Before everybody leaves, if anybody needs anything, and Ann is gone for the next couple of days because Ann's brother was killed in a truck accident. So that's why she wasn't mailing anything out. So I will get a hold of Barb tomorrow. And if you guys need any new information from her, I'll make sure you get that. Okay? Okay. Thank you so much.